You're strapped into the fastest fighter in Europe, and you can't use it. A Luftwaffe 109 just slashed through the bomber box ahead of you, tore a B-17 apart, and dove below 18,000 feet. Every instinct screams chase. But the order is absolute. You couldn't leave the bombers. Before February 1944, 8th Air Force escorts were chained to close formation, forced to watch enemy fighters kill and escape. Then Doolittle reversed the policy with a single memo, and fighter kills surged. But that new freedom came with a cost no one warned you about. You've 19, maybe 20. You sign the paper, raise your right hand, and a week later you're on a train rolling out of Texas. The Army Air Forces don't care about your dreams of dogfights yet. First you climb into a PT-17 Stearman, canvas wings and open cockpit, the propeller's wind slapping your goggles. 75 hours in the air, up, down, again and again, learning to trust your hands, your eyes, your gut. The instructor barks through the Gosport tube, but it's the engine's drone and the slipstream's bite that teach you the rhythm of flight. You stall, you spin, you sweat through forced landings until the stick feels like an extension of your own bones. Past that check ride, and you graduate to the BT-13 Valiant. 85 hours now, the engine heavier, the controls stiffer, the stakes higher. Night flights over empty fields, formation drills until your neck aches from watching the other cadets' wingtips. You learn to trust the black instruments glowing in the dark, to hold your nerve as the ground disappears and the world shrinks to a circle of dim, red lights. The Volti vibrator bucks and rattles, and you wrestle it through three-point turns, crosswind landings, and the endless grinding repetition that forges discipline out of raw nerves. Then it's the 86 Texan, 105 hours in a machine, that finally feels like a warplane. The cockpit is tighter, the engine louder, the propeller's hum a constant companion. You practice snap rolls, high-speed stalls, and simulated dogfights with classmates who are just as scared and just as eager. The G-forces press you into the seat. Your parachute harness digs into your shoulders. You learn to fire the guns, to track a moving target, to read the sky for threats you can't see. The instructors push you harder, strip away every bad habit, until you can fly on instinct and muscle memory alone. By the end, you've logged nearly 300 hours, 75 in the Stearman, 85 in the Valiant, 105 in the Texan, and a handful more in ground school, running through emergency drills and cockpit checklists until the numbers blur. The pipeline is relentless. Each phase weeds out the careless, the unlucky, the ones who can't keep up if you make it. You're shipped to a replacement training unit for the Mustang itself, a few tense hours in the P-51 before you're packed onto a troop ship bound for England, your flight log stamped and your hands still shaking from the last check ride. You've mastered the machines, but you haven't faced the cold, the isolation, or the enemy yet. That comes next, over the grey fields of East Anglia, where every lesson is tested in the thin, freezing air above the bombers. Cold air cuts through as boots hit the gravel at Debden. The sky hangs low, grey and heavy, pressing down on rows of Nissen huts. Damp earth and engine oil fill every breath. This is the front line, far from the classroom, and the Mustang is waiting. Rain streaks her silver skin, and ground crews move around her with quiet focus. Sergeant Harold Harris, grease-stained and sharp-eyed, waves you over. He's been with Mustangs since they landed in England, knows every system and every story. "She'll look after you if you look after her," he says, palm resting on the nose. Your hand trails along the cold fuselage as the Packard Merlin 16507 engine rumbles to life. 1,695 horsepower, 12 cylinders, and a whine that settles somewhere deep in your chest. Harris points out the fuel selector. Wing tanks first, then the 85-gallon fuselage tank right behind your seat. Don't get clever on takeoff. With a full fuselage tank, she's tail heavy. First half hour, she'll want to climb. Trim her nose down or she'll surprise you. You squeeze into the cockpit, knees tight against the sides, harness biting your shoulders. The gun sight glows in the gloom, and the panel is crowded with switches, oil pressure, coolant temperature, manifold, fuel gauge ticking down. At cruise, she burns 55 gallons an hour. Push her in combat, and it jumps to 78. You run the numbers, enough to reach Berlin and back, if luck holds and flak doesn't find you. The canopy shutters shut, glass fogging with your breath. Harris gives a thumbs up, and the Merlin's vibration settles your nerves. The propeller wash rattles the airframe. Outside, ground crew watch every move, patching bullet holes, swapping plugs, catching a cracked hose before it cooks the Merlin at altitude. Their work keeps you alive as much as any manoeuvre. You memorise the checklist, fingers stiff from the cold. Mixture rich, throttle cracked, coolant shutters open. The Mustang feels restless. You're far from home, and the sky over Germany waits. Tomorrow brings the briefing hut and the mission map. For now, you sit with the Merlin idling, the weight of what's ahead pressing in. The engine's song fills your head. Above the horizon, clouds start to break. Soon you'll be airborne, chasing formation, caught between courage and survival. The briefing hut is thick with the smell of burnt coffee and wet wool. Boots thud across the floor, mud clinging to soles, eyes still heavy from a restless night. On the wall, the map is already marked Berlin, again. Cigarette smoke drifts as Major Glover steps forward, jaw set, eyes steady. In his hand, a single sheet, the new order, signed by Doolittle. You are authorized to leave the bombers, he says. He assists. Vista seemed clipped and urgent. Once we are clear of the flat corridor, you see a Hun, you go get him. No more chains. It is February 23rd, 1944. The rules have changed. The leash of close escort is gone. A jolt of freedom, edged with fear, runs through the room. This is big week, massive raids, the Luftwaffe waiting, and over 1,000 B-17s lined up outside. The numbers echo, more than 1,000 bombers, nearly as many fighters. Not everyone will return. Layers go on, wool long johns, thick socks, flight suit, gloves that barely hold back the cold. The 45 slides into its holster, the escape kit into a chest pocket. A silk map is stitched to your thigh, a last hope if things go wrong. The harness digs in, never quite comfortable. Someone mutters about the eggs in the mess, but laughter does not come. Outside, the Mustang waits, silver skin beaded with dew, the Packard Merlin already rumbling under the crew chief's hands. Climb the ladder, squeeze into the cockpit, knees pressed tight. The canopy fogs with breath. Checklist runs by muscle memory. Mixture rich, throttle cracked, coolant shutters open. The Merlin's whine rises, settling into your bones. Oil pressure steady, fuel ticking down, wing tanks first, then the 85-gallon fuselage tank that makes her tail heavy on takeoff. Harris's warning sticks. Trim her nose down, or she will want to climb right out from under you. Ground crew steps back, hands raised. Propeller wash rattles the frame. Taxi out, wheels bumping over gravel and puddles, cold seeping into your boots. The radio crackles. Red flight, blue flight, check in. The runway stretches ahead, black and slick. Throttle forward, the Merlin roars. The Mustang leaps, pressing you into the seat as gravity slips away. Wheels up. The world falls beneath you. The climb is steady, air thinning, temperature dropping toward -60 degrees. The cockpit is a glass box, breath freezing on the canopy. The harness cuts with every jolt. The squadron forms up, 4 tight on your wingtips, the rest spread wide. Bombers stream ahead, a river of silver crawling east. Level at 25,000 feet, fingers stiff, eyes searching for the first glint of enemy wings. The new order lingers. You can leave the bombers now, but only when the time comes. Until then, you hold the line, engine humming, adrenaline threading through the cold. The horizon is a pale slash above the clouds. The mission has begun. Freedom is now a weight in your hands. Hours will blur, patience tested. Somewhere below, Berlin waits. Somewhere ahead, the Luftwaffe climbs. You settle in, heart pounding, watching for trouble. The climb ends. The Mustang steadies out, and the world shrinks to a cold, endless corridor of sky. 25,000 feet. The glass canopy frosts at the edges, breath turning to ice. You flex your fingers, but the gloves barely hold back the ache. Your toes go numb first, then the skin on your cheeks. The Merlin's whine settles into a low, constant growl, always there, vibrating through the seat, through your bones. Oxygen hisses in your mask. The altimeter needle barely moves. You settle in for the long watch. Below, the bombers crawl east in a river of silver. B-17s and B-24s, hundreds of them, each one carrying 10 men you'll never meet. Their wings glint in the pale sun, tight in formation, black exhaust trailing behind. You're their shield, the line between them and the Luftwaffe. Every pair of eyes in those bombers is counting on you, even if they never know your name. The rules are simple. Stay close. Don't chase unless the bombers are clear. That's the order. You feel it in your gut, the urge to break off, to hunt, to turn the Mustang loose. But you hold. You fly in tight formation, eyes flicking from the lead's wingtips to the horizon, searching for the first black speck of a German fighter. The discipline is harder than any dogfight. The enemy is out there, just beyond sight, and every instinct screams to go after him. But you can't. Not yet. Time stretches. Minutes become hours. The cold seeps in deeper. The Mustang's cockpit is a coffin of glass and metal, barely wide enough for your shoulders. The harness soars at your chest with every jolt of turbulence. You shift, trying to relieve the pressure, but there's nowhere to go. The only movement is the slow ticking of the fuel gauge. 55 gallons per hour at cruise. You calculate over and over how much you'll have left on the way home. You watch the bombers. Some limp along, engines feathered, smoke trailing. Sometimes a gap opens in the formation, a missing plane. You know what that means? There's no room for mourning, not up here. You count the seconds since you last saw a friendly wingtip. You count the bombers, always coming up short. The numbers run in your head. Before the Mustangs, 9 out of every 100 bombers never made it home. Now it's closer to 3 or 4. Still too many. Every empty slot is a story that ends in fire. The monotony is brutal. You scan the sky, eyes burning, fighting sleep and the creeping numbness. The only warmth comes from the engine, radiating faintly through the firewall. You think about home, about the letters you write, always the same lies, always the same reassurances. All's well. Don't worry. I'll be fine. You never mention the cold, the fear, the way your hands shake after every mission. An hour passes, then another. The bombers keep moving, and you hold your post. The discipline is a chain, stronger than steel. You can feel the tension building, the sense that at any moment the sky could erupt. You're ready, every nerve on edge, but for now you endure. The enemy is out there, waiting. The order still stands. Stay with the bombers. The horizon is empty, but the silence can't last. You spot a glint off your right wing, a flash no bigger than a thumbnail against the pale haze. The K-14 gyroscopic sight glows amber on the panel, humming with its own quiet confidence. You squeeze the stick, thumb hovering over the gun switch. The enemy is closing fast, a Bf-109 angling in from above, sunlight catching its yellow nose. The canopy vibrates with the Merlin's growl, the cold biting through your gloves, breath fogging your mask. You roll out, line up the sight, and let the K-14 do its work. The reticle floats, tracking the 109's arc as you bank hard. The world narrows to a circle of glass, a flickering crosshair, and the pressure of the harness digging into your chest. You fire. .50 caliber rounds leap out, tracers carving a path through the thin air. The K-14 holds steady, compensating for every twitch, every G-force. The 109 shudders, smoke trailing from its engine. You watch it spiral down, a black smear against the clouds. For a split second, you feel the rush, adrenaline, pride, the proof that the new sight works, June 1944, and the K-14 is changing everything. The claim ratio has jumped to 1.4 enemy aircraft per 100 sorties. The numbers are on your side, at least for now. But then the radio crackles. Red 2, bomber down, 9 o'clock low. You jerk your head left. A B-17 staggers, wing ablaze, men tumbling from the hatch, Sergeant Miller's ship. You'd flown beside him last week, shared a cigarette in the mess. Now he's just a shape falling through the sky, silk blooming late in the slipstream. No one speaks. The loss rate is still 2.1%. 2 out of every 100 bombers gone, even with the K-14's edge. You're supposed to feel like a hunter, but the feeling is hollow. The Mustang is fast, the gun sight precise, but you can't save everyone. You hold formation, hands shaking, the taste of metal in your mouth. There's no time to mourn. The sky is alive with tracer fire and the Merlin's vibration. You scan for more targets, eyes burning, ears ringing. The K-14 glows, ready for the next shot. But the cockpit feels smaller now. The cold cuts deeper. You count the bombers, always coming up short. Back at base, the silence will be heavy, the bunks empty. For now, you fly on, adrenaline fading, grief settling in your bones. The mission isn't over. The horizon is still crowded with ghosts. You drag yourself out of the Mustang, boots crunching on the wet gravel, legs numb and hands tingling from hours at altitude. The Merlin's echo still rattles in your bones. In the distance, the bombers limp home, some missing, some trailing smoke, all carrying men who count on you. It's April 1944, and the war has changed again. Doolittle's latest order lands hard. You're not just an escort now. The mission goes beyond the bombers. Low-level strafing, airfields, trains, anything that moves. The briefing is blunt. Hit them on the ground, make them pay. You sit on your bunk, peeling off gloves, stiff with sweat and oil. The hut smells of damp wool and stale cigarettes. Tommy sprawls on the next cot, boots still on, staring at the ceiling. He hasn't said a word since debrief. You both know the numbers. More Mustangs lost to ground fire now than to enemy fighters. One burst from a 20mm, and you're done. There's no skill in it, just luck, or the lack of it. Fatigue seeps in, heavier than the flight gear. The missions never stop. 5, sometimes 7 hours in the cockpit, every nerve stretched thin. You write home on V-mail, the microfilm letters that pass through sensors before they ever reach Texas. All's quiet, weather's cold, I'm fine. The lies come easy now. You never mention the empty bunks, the silence in the mess, or the way your hands shake lighting a cigarette after landing. Outside, Captain Whitaker reads a letter from home, lips moving silently. She folds it, tucks it into her jacket, and heads for the operations tent. The Me-262s are out there now, jets you can barely catch unless you hit them on takeoff or landing. Orders are clear. Intercept at all costs. The war is speeding up, but the hours between missions drag. You watch the rain slide down the window, knowing tomorrow brings another sortie. The Merlin's song will fill your head again, and the cold will bite deeper. You wait for the next dawn, not sure how many more you'll see. You still feel the Merlin's vibration in your bones, the harness biting your shoulders, sweat freezing against your neck. That discipline, holding formation as bombers burn, never leaves you. Today, drone pilots watch screens instead of contrails, but the paradox endures. Instinct versus duty, isolation inside the cockpit. The cost of restraint shapes every war, and every young flyer who comes after you. What would you do, hands trembling, with someone else's lives in your sights?